Hello everyone, this is part 22 of What If Naruto and Hinata trained together and a spark happened, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. When his alarm went off as 5 a.m., Naruto was already wide awake, full of anticipation. He slapped the button, silencing the buzzer. Then he hopped out of bed, dropping his sleep shorts to the carpet in the same action. The knuckle-headed Chunin bounded into the bathroom, and was in the shower in less than 10 seconds. After a quick scrub down, he brushed his teeth and got dressed. Even though Hinata wasn't scheduled to arrive until 6, he wanted to make sure he was ready by the time she got there. Participants in the Jonin trials were due to meeting at Ninja Ops at 7 a.m. to obtain their examination assignments. That would tell them what time, what day, and which proctor would be overseeing each of their 5 tests. Naruto was just finishing frying the bacon when there was a knock at the door. "Come in," he called out. The door rattled, and the young man heard an annoyed exhale. A few seconds later, he heard the lock open, and the door slid inward. "Naruto, it was locked," Hinata complained as she set the paper bag on the kitchen counter. He shifted the pan off the heat, and turned to grin at her. "Well, if it was someone I wasn't expecting, they would have knocked again." He crossed the kitchen and wrapped his arms around her. "And if it was my still occasionally shy, but unbearably cute girlfriend," he gave her a quick peck on the lips to emphasize, "she should have just used her key without knocking." "But Naruto, it would be improper," she argued, blushing slightly. "Hinata, this isn't a late-night rendezvous," he laughed, hugging her tighter. "It's breakfast. Kakashi-sensei and your father both know we're meeting like this. And it's not like we have much time for dessert after breakfast. Though we might want some, since you vetoed the donuts. Unless you changed your mind." He released her and went for the bag. "No," she shook her head, the red slowly fading from her cheeks. "Bagels are healthier than pastries, and we'll need to be at our best today." Naruto sighed, and moved to the cupboard. He took out a pair of plates, and served up the bacon, before setting the dishes on the table. The couple then worked together on the beverages, Naruto setting out the glasses and Hinata pouring the milk, apple juice, and orange juice in turn. She walked out to the dining area and arrayed the cups, while he took out the butter and grabbed the bagels. "So, Naruto," Hinata asked after their first few minutes of eating in silence, "have you thought about whom you'd want for your proctors in the trials?" "Not really," he shrugged, quickly taking a swig of apple juice before adding, "I mean, it's not like we get a choice, so there isn't much point in worrying about it." "But what about what Kakashi-sensei told us? About how difficult Guy-sensei's stealth tests are, or how strict Kurenai-sensei was about the Genjutsu test? And what do you think Anko-sensei would do if she was your weapons jutsu examiner?" "Well, Kurenai is in the land of air, so that's not a problem." Naruto considered it for an instant. "And I'd be happy to get Anko-sensei or Iruka-sensei for weapons, at least they'll respect the staff blade. And as for Guy's obstacle course, I say bring it on. Besides," he continued more evenly, sensing her nervousness, "not only do we not get to choose, we don't even know which teachers will be handling which tests." He took her hand and met her eyes. "So don't worry about it, Hinata. I'm sure you'll do great. Probably better than me even." She smiled faintly at the compliment. She forced down her fear, drowning it with his love and confidence in her. Naruto glanced around the meeting room, looking confused. "Wow, I thought there would be more people," he said to Hinata. Aside from the two of them, there was Sakura and Lee, as they expected. Most of the rest of their friends were present as well. Tenten, Shino, Kiba, Sasum, and Choji were all waiting for their instructions. Besides the teenage Chunin, the only people in the room he recognized were Inoki Yamanaka and Shikaku Nara. The remaining handful of 20-something ninjas were unfamiliar to Uzumaki. "I mean, where are Shika, Maru and Ino?" he protested, "or for that matter Rado, Genma, and the other Tokujo." "Actually," Choji looked chagrined, "Anko-sensei said the 3 of us weren't ready, and told us not to compete. But I decided to give it a try anyway. Asuma would be proud," Hinata offered insightfully. "Yeah, I was thinking if sensei were alive, he'd be bribing me to test myself here, the rotund young man agreed. I'm kinda disappointed Shikamaru and Ino didn't sign up too. Anko-sensei can be pretty scary, Naruto offered in consolation. And as for your other question, Inoki offered, joining the younger ninjas. Very few Tokubutsu Jonin ever advance beyond that rank. They have a block in one or two of the pillars, and decide their time is better spent shoring up their strengths than trying to overcome their weaknesses. Shizune, Anko, and Yugao are the exceptions, not the rule, Sakura added, and the mentalist Jonin nodded his agreement. There were many more people last time, Lee told them. It seemed like almost half of the Jonin in the village were renewing their credentials 2 years ago. Well, if it's just the 19 of us, what are we waiting for? Naruto asked loudly at the door. The others all turned to entryway, and Shino checked his watch. Despite the loud Chunnin's prompting, they received no immediate response. They all began to glance at their watches or phones, wondering how long they would be kept waiting. At 7:09 a.m., just as everyone besides Naruto was starting to get antsy, the door finally swung inwards. I'm sorry we're late, the Hokage announced crankily as she strode in, waving a manila folder in annoyance, but 2 of our proctors were running behind. Iruka, Anko, Shizune, Yamato, Guy, Neji, Temari, Choza, Kakashi, and Yugao followed quickly behind her, with the last 2 Jonin both looking moderately guilty. So, anyway, Tsunade glared at the late-arriving lovers. These are the proctors of this year's Jonin trials. Iruka Yumino and Shizune will be administering the Genjutsu tests, Kakashi Hatake and Yamato will handle the Ninjutsu tests, Might Guy and Anko Mitarashi will be handling the stealth and espionage skills tests. At that point the announced was interrupted by a collective groan from the assembled shinobi to be tested. Yugao Azuki and Neji Hyuga will test your taijutsu, she continued without pause, and that leaves Temari and Choza Akamaiki to check your weapon skills. She opened the file, and explained, I will be giving each of you a printout informing you the date, time slot, and proctor who will be overseeing your trials. The first slots are at 8, so I'll get this over quickly so those of you in the early times will have a chance to prepare. She announced the names one at a time, and they each stepped forward to collect their assignments. When she was done, Naruto noticed there was still 1 sheet left in the folder. Hey, Grammar Tsunade, you still have 1 left, he pointed out loudly. Well, maybe someone decided to drop out at the last minute, she coughed nervously, no reason to embarrass him or her. Well, that's it, you can go, she said more gruffly. Most of them took the hint, and shuffled out, but Shizune and Temari stayed where they were. Once the others were gone, the Sand Kunoiki spoke first. Are you sure this is all right? The Gaara's sister asked uncertainly. I'm not a Jonin from this village, and this knowledge might be considered sensitive. Tsunade snorted at the suggestion. The qualifications set down by the 5 cage for Jonin rank are well known and carefully monitored. You won't be learning that much. Besides, I figure this is the least I can do. Kurenai is helping determine your village's new genin curriculum. If I were to force that information out of her, the whole next generation of sand ninjas would be compromised. Temari looked a little surprised by the open admission, but then she smiled wryly and nodded, stating, well then I better go. I'm sure Tenten will be treating her weapons test like a rematch for the Chunin exams, so I need to get ready. After she left, Shizune approached her mentor. I don't know why you are so embarrassed, Lady Tsunade, the slimmer medic admonished. Every Jonin has to renew her credentials. But I'm not. Every Jonin, she snapped, taking the final sheet out of the folder. I'm one of the legendary Sannin, and the Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village. Sannin is a law of respect, not an actual rank, Shizune reminded her sternly, and there is no exemption for the 5 cage. Well there should be, the leader of the Konohagakure Corps grumbled. Then she thought of something and brightened, maybe I'll suggest that the next time the conclave meets. I'm sure you will, her apprentice sighed, but that will not excuse you from this week. So I will see you at noon, Lady Tsunade. Though most of the others quickly dispersed, Naruto and Hinata stopped to compare notes. He tried to flag down Sakura too, but she ran off, nervously telling them that she had the 8 a.m. skills test with Guy. So, who did I get? Naruto said, looking at his assignment list for the first time. April 14th, noon, Taijutsu with Yugao Azuki. April 15th, 8 a.m., Ninjutsu with Kakashi Hatake. April 16th, 3 p.m., Weapons with Temari. April 17th, 8 a.m., Genjutsu with Iruka Yumino. And last but not least, April 18th, 3 p.m., stealth and espionage with, ugh, might guy. But Naruto, Hinata was confused by his reaction. I thought you said you didn't care if you had to go through Guy Sensei's test. Yeah, he nodded, except it's the last slot of the last day, which means he'll have had plenty of chances to smooth out the wrinkles, and I'll get compared to everyone else. Oh well, he grinned forcibly, no sense getting worried, right? So, who'd you get? Hinata looked over her printout again, and told him, today I have Kakashi-sensei, tomorrow I have Shizune, the day after that is Anko-sensei, then Yugao-sensei, and finally Choza. What times? He asked. They are all during the noon time slot, except for Anko-sensei's skills test, she answered, that one is the early slot. So we should get together tonight. Naruto's grin became sly, and I can tell you about Yugao's exam, and you can tell me about Kakashi's. Naruto, a familiar voice growled behind him. The Hokage had just exited the meeting room, and she draped an arm over his shoulder, not quite putting him in a headlock. If I hear that you have been cheating on the Jonin trials, Tsunade rumbled, I'll not only disqualify you, I'll give you nothing but D-rank missions for the rest of the year. Got it. Come on, the blonde youth smiled nervously, I was just kidding. We both know Hinata wouldn't do that. He looked to his girlfriend for support, prompting, would you? Oh, no, she suddenly agreed, of course I wouldn't. The master healer did not look convinced, but she released her nephew, anyway. You better not, she warned them both, before sauntering off. Well, we're both at noon. Naruto sighed in relief once the Hokage was gone. Wanna go back to my place until then? Yes, Hinata answered enthusiastically. Hello, Naruto. Yugao Azuki bowed slightly. She was already in one of the academy's dojos, when the younger shinobi arrived, a full 10 minutes early. Unlike normal, the former Anbu agent wore a plain white gi, and her purple hair was braided and tucked into her collar. Her purple eyes regarded him with a bemused fondness. Hey, Yugao-sensei, the younger man inclined his head in turn. The way I run this is slightly different than you might be expecting, she told him, so I will explain. Of course, your goal is to exhibit mastery of 8 different styles of taijutsu. To pass, 4 of them must be C rank or higher, 2 must be B rank or higher, and final 2 must be of at least A rank. However, rather than simply have you show individual techniques and forms, I will first give you 10 minutes to perform whatever forms you like. Then, we will spar for 10 minutes. That will give you time to show as many as 9 styles, and let you show that you can use each style in real combat. Great, Naruto nodded enthusiastically, I prefer a real fight to all that technical stuff. I expected as much, she smiled wryly, so where shall we begin? Sure thing, he nodded vigorously. Well then, what style do you intend to show first? Well, he considered the question, how about the whipping willow style? If you like, the kunoichi was surprised by his choice. In that case, proceed with your first kata. Naruto nodded intensely. He lifted his right foot, and stamped it firmly into the mat. He repeated the movement with his left leg. Then he sliced with his right hand, while turning his body to the side and slapping away an invisible attack with his left palm. Such an unusual choice, especially for him, Yugao thought as Naruto's torso snapped back, firing a left-hand palm strike and then twisting away from another fictional attacker, a technique that expects its user to have his legs bound or trapped, and one that uses only open-hand attacks. If memory serves, it was developed by a ninja who became paralyzed from the waist down in battle. He designed the taijutsu after he saw a willow tree battling the wind and rain in a storm. Despite her introspection, the Jonin watched him very closely, and was pleased by the speed and accuracy of Naruto's movements and by the fact that he was able to remain completely still from the knees down. Naruto completed his training sequence with a bow, and looked to her for approval. Well done, she said simply, and you still have 3 minutes left. Is there another kata you would like to present? He considered that, pondering out loud, well, the whipping willow doesn't have any short forms. Other than that one. He quickly demonstrated the wind dance kata. But that one only takes about 20 seconds, he said regretfully once he had finished, it's the first beginner's kata. In that case, shall we move on to part 2? Yugao queried, assuming a fighting stance. Sure. Naruto remained in place, his feet planted. He extended his hands, stretched his right out far, while keeping his left closer to his body. She stepped forward, aiming a hard right cross for the teen's face. The Chunin struck her wrist with the edge of his right hand, numbing her arm even as he knocked the attack away. In the same motion he drew his left arm back, and then fired his palm at her right. She sidestepped, but Naruto's right forearm was also moving, and he brought the heel of his hand down on her left shoulder. Good, she said, stepping back and switching styles, but you know that you are allowed to move your feet in a real fight. A student of the Whipping Willows may move if he is able, he quoted, a master will never need to. I don't think you are a master quite yet, she admonished, quickly moving behind him. She punched at the middle of his spine, but Naruto twisted back. He caught Yugao's arm, and forcibly dragged her back around in front of him. Not yet, he agreed, grinning, but I got your number, Yugao-sensei. We'll see, she pretended to be baited. She charged in, firing twin punches at his head. When he blocked and began his countered attack, she dropped low, and swept his legs. As he fell, she rolled forward, landing on top of him. Ready for a recount? She asked, smiling. You've been spending too much time with Kakashi-sensei, he remarked, grabbing her shoulders with his opposite arms. He untwisted his limbs, putting her off balance, and then thrust the jonin away. Freed, he put his hands on the ground, and levered himself up into a handstand. Once he was upright, if inverted, Naruto performed the last part of a cartwheel, ending up back on his feet. All without moving his legs at all. Should I put that under commitment to the style or showing off? She asked, hiding how impressed she was by the acrobatics. Whatever you want, sensei, he told her, but in the meantime, I've got 5 more minutes sparring in this style, and by my count I've landing 3 blows to your 1. If you get too smug, she told him coldly, I might just forget that this is test. Clear. Yes, ma'am, Naruto shuddered from her dark gaze. Good. Her expression cleared and her lips twitched up, let us continue. She stepped up her assault, forcing him into a more defensive position. So who taught you this style? She asked conversationally, but also testing his focus, was it Kakashi-sensei, or Master Jiraiya? Hey, Naruto chuckled, you still call Kakashi-sensei, sensei, when you're sleeping with him. What's he teaching you now? Yugao tried to ignore him, but her face colored slightly, and she reminded herself that she still needed to thank Hinata for bringing their relationship into the open. When she didn't answer, Naruto returned to her original question. It wasn't either of those guys, he said, aiming her left fingers at her neck. Hinata asked Lady Tsunade to teach us the style. She used it in part to refine the protection of the 8 trigrams 64 palms into the protection of the 8 trigrams 128 palms. And then when I got good enough, she came up with the idea for our double version. Were you there for the final test? She shook her head, no, while she aimed a kick at his knees. He blocked, bending low, and she continued. I had heard you two were no longer training with the Hokage. The retired Anbu warrior added a curious inflection to her statement. Yeah, she called it quits right after she set up to the new teams, he told her. She said we had come far enough, and that she didn't have time for us anymore. That does sound like the Hokage, she conceded, catching his fist and trying to pull him off balance. But despite her stance giving her a lower center of gravity, Naruto's superior mass and strength won out, and he ended up dragging her into a knife hand strike. Well, her goal was to improve our taijutsu and chakra, and she definitely did that, he said proudly. He stopped her last attack, and then Yugao stopped, stepping away. Time's up, she told him, pick your next style. Wait, aren't you going to tell me how I did? No, she said simply, without recrimination or malice, now choose. The blonde Chunin considered his options. Hello, Hinata. Kakashi Hatake slipped a bookmark into Ika Paradox and returned the tome to a pouch on his jacket. The Sharingan user was hosting his exam outside the infamous Forest of Death, where they would have ample space for massive earthquakes, huge explosions, or transforming the river into a giant dragon. Good afternoon, Kakashi-sensei, the young woman returned his greeting while sketching a deep bow. So, this is your ninjutsu test, the copy ninja told her, and though we both know this test is basically a formality, we better do it right anyway, just to be safe. She nodded, and the jonin took a note card out of his pocket. This a ninjutsu qualification examination for the jonin trials, he read, to be considered for the rank of Jonin, you must be able to exhibit at least 9C rank techniques, 6B rank techniques, and 3A rank techniques beyond the standard academy curriculum. In addition, you will also be expected to show mastery of at least 2 chakra elements. Finally, at the proctor's discretion, you may be called upon to exhibit the E rank through B rank skills deemed standard and basic by the Hidden Leaf Village. Your time limit is 3 hours. Good luck. Well, he put the piece of thick paper back. I think we can bypass the common skills part of the test. In fact, I can only think of 2 of the 10 people I am testing, who I will be asking to show that. Anyway, you can begin at any time. Care to start at the bottom? Actually, Sensei, she shook her head nervously, if you don't mind, I'd rather work in sets, rather than by rank. It's your test, Hinata, he told her encouragingly, go right ahead. Thank you, she bowed. Then she arrayed her fingers in a cross shape, and announced, multi-shadow clone jutsu. Kakashi's jaw almost dropped as 100 copies of the Hyuga Eris appeared in the field. But he forced himself to maintain his composure, realizing he shouldn't be surprised that Hinata knew this technique. After all, the one who taught her had no sense of restraint. Naruto, he asked for confirmation. Yes, she nodded en masse. But he had trouble explaining the differences between the multiple version and the normal version, another of the girls admitted. Then most of the copies dissipated, leaving only Hinata plus 7 clones. Without waiting, the original raised her right hand. Chakra began to swirl above her palm, condensing into a glowing blue sphere. Rasengan, she announced, knowing it wasn't necessary. Then, the first stepped back, and 2 more stepped forward. The first clone held up her hands as if holding a large ball, and the second clone began to move her hands as if spinning the imaginary globe. Chakra became visible again, and this time instead of hand-sized, the orb was just over 1 meter in diameter. Odama Rasengan, the clones told their teacher in unison, and then they too moved away. The next pair of copies stepped forward, and the Hinata on the left raised her right hand. As the energy began to swirl over her palm again, the right side version's hands began to dart in, and the chakra began to change from blue to purple. Sparks arced between the individual strands, and the injecting Hinata's motion sped up. Finally the full sphere formed, brilliant lavender and crackling with electricity. The hair of both Hinata's heads started to drift gently away from their scalps. Rasengan, the shadows said, before they too made way for the remaining replicas. The last 3 duplicates stood before Kakashi, and their movements were the amalgamation of the previous 2 sets. The Rasengan formed between the trio was almost 4 feet in diameter, and a deep purple. Even 5 feet away from her, Kakashi could feel the charge given off by the jutsu. Odama Rasengan. All 8 Hinatas intoned triumphantly. After a few more seconds of display, the pale beauties cancelled the spiraling orbs, trying to reclaim some of their spent power. Then the 7 copies all vanished. Well, it looks like you and Naruto have managed to do what I could not, Kakashi said with a catch in his voice. Even though he had heard about the lightning chakra versions of the Rasengan before, this was his first time to see them. Hinata looked down, uncomfortable and slightly embarrassed. I'm sorry, Kakashi-sensei, she said regretfully, maybe. Don't be, he said quickly, realizing she had misunderstood him, I am very proud of the both of you. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei, she smiled softly at him, profoundly grateful. Hitaki blushed under his mask, and cleared his voice to regain his composure. Well, that would be 3A rank and 2S rank ninjutsu, he noted, plus use of the lightning element. A strong start. What do you have to show me next? I was thinking of showing you my Byakugan techniques, she answered, and then my earth element techniques. That sounds good, he confirmed, already starting to tally in his head the Hyuga clan arts and her personal variants that he knew about. Well, that was number 8, Yugao said, panting slightly, do you want to quit there, or do you have another style you want to show? Nope, I saved the best for last, he grinned, the tiger and heron style. Really? For an instant the Jonin was unable to hide her surprise. Then she composed herself, and continued more evenly, well, then proceed with your first form. My only form, he told her, it usually takes over 12 minutes, so I'll have to speed it up a little. No, please don't, she shook her head, we are ahead of schedule, so take your time and do it right. Naruto did not answer in words, but took a deep breath and combined a bow and a nod. He then entered the salute for the style, standing his left foot, his right leg curled, while he scratched down his upper arms before spreading his upper limbs wide like wings. Uzumaki began the form by darting forward, jabbing quickly 3 times with his fists, before jumping up, pivoting at the waist in a double roundhouse kick. He landed, sweeping the invisible opponent's leg, before hopping back to standing position with an uppercut. It really is tiger and heron, she confirmed, that set of strikes, the use of attacks as the only kind of defense. But I've only ever seen this in videos of the 4th Hokage. Who could have taught it to Naruto? She continued to watch him, amazed, her thoughts continuing to blaze through her skull. I suppose someone probably taught Minato Namikaze, but who? And who still knows this art? Kakashi doesn't know this style. He told me that the 4th only ever taught it to Rin, and that she did not get that far before. Her musings trailed off, not wanting to think about her lover's old sensei or previous girlfriend. A few minutes later, Uzumaki finished the kata. Once he was done, she voiced her mind. Naruto, may I ask where you learned that style? She asked carefully. I know Kakashi-sensei doesn't know it. Was it Master Jiraiya, or perhaps Lady Tsunade? Nah, the pervy sage doesn't know it, he said. I asked when I found the scrolls. But Grandma Tsunade did help me. She knows the original tiger and crane styles that my mom used to create the tiger and heron. But mostly it was just me and Hinata going over mom's notes. Naruto, are you saying? The Jonin was reeling at the ramifications. Yeah, my mom created the tiger and heron. But since she was a genin, she didn't have any students to teach her it to, and she never taught her own sensei, Grandma Tsunade, either, he remembered wistfully, but we found her scrolls in her armory. And it really impressed me, so I had to learn the style. So I guess you were a fan of hers too, he smiled, seeing as how you recognized the style by name. Something like that, she said evasively. Naruto, are you sure Yukihana invented the tiger and heron? That she didn't learn it from someone else? He frowned, not entirely pleased by the question, but he still considered it. Well, I can't be totally sure, he admitted, but the notes were all hers, and they seemed to cover the entire planning process, even from the conception stage. I suppose she could have copied it all down from somewhere else. Or maybe she worked together with someone on it. He liked the idea, looking thoughtful. Grandma Tsunade did say some things seemed to be missing or incomplete. Maybe someone else out there has like the other half. Maybe, the purple-eyed woman suggested, suddenly anxious to be done, but I guess we don't really have time for that now. Oh, right, Naruto suddenly remembered, the test. We still have to spar. Engored, Yugao-sensei. He dropped into a fighting stance, and waited for her to do the same. With a grin at his malapropism, she prepared to battle the younger man. Good morning, Yugao, Kakashi said in surprise, when his girlfriend opened the door to her apartment before he could knock. Am I late? He pondered aloud, glancing at the skyline before he stepped inside. The sun was still low. He had made it before their 6 a.m. appointment. He observed her anxious features, growing nervous in turn. No, I was waiting, she said quickly, closing the door behind him, and invoking an advanced privacy jutsu. He raised his uncovered eyebrow. I learned something yesterday, she told him, striding back to her kitchenette, pouring him a cup of coffee, and the more I think about it, the more it leads me to a certain conclusion. Well, he said carefully, taking the mug she offered him, why don't you start at the beginning? The beginning. She took a deep breath, and continued more slowly, fine. The beginning is that Naruto Uzumaki knows the tiger and heron taijutsu style, she informed him. In fact, more than knows, it was probably his best style. Definitely A rank, easily bordering on S rank. Kakashi exhaled at that bit of information, but otherwise kept his cool. And what difference does that make? He asked innocently. Setting aside for the moment that it was the 4th Hokage's primary style, and it basically vanished when he died, she said that pointedly, indicated she would be using it later. When I asked Naruto where he learned the style, he said he learned it from the scrolls his mother left behind when she designed the technique. And? He asked in a blasé tone. And? She was too familiar with him to rise to his teasing. And how did Minato Namikaze learn a fighting style created by Yukihana Uzumaki? Why would he make it his primary style? The two of them barely ever crossed paths, at least officially. She could have asked him for advice, he suggested evenly, or he could have noticed her practicing and asked her to teach him. Minato-sensei was always looking for new techniques to learn. He had hoped to surpass Sarutobi in terms of raw knowledge. But that would mean they had to spend a decent amount of time together with no one knowing about it, she countered, and then there is Lady Tsunet's reaction when I brought back the duplicate of the siphon. Why would she be worried about his axe appearing, unless there was something she thought might draw him back to the village? Yugao, stop, he said gently, if I knew anything about what you were suggesting, it would be killing me not to talk to you about it. But not as much as it would kill me to talk to you about it. And it would be safer for you if you forgot this. He tapped his heart with his right hand as he said the last part, and her eyes widened in recognition. She nodded slowly. It's just random speculation anyway, she offered, I just got too excited over finding out that lost technique was being revived. Well, don't get too carried away, he advised, we've both got a long day ahead of us. Despite being a few minutes early for a change, Naruto was already waiting outside the Forest of Death when Kakashi arrived. Sensei, Naruto shouted, waving at the elder shinobi. Kakashi rolled his eyes and shook his head, but walked over to the Chunin. Good morning, Naruto, the copy ninja said simply. Ready? Naruto asked without greeting or preamble, crossing his fingers for the multi-shadow clone jutsu. But Kakashi raised his hand to forestall his eager student. Hang on a minute, Naruto, he cautioned, I haven't asked you to start yet. Well, what's the hold up? The younger man complained. I have to go through the introduction first, the Jonin explained, taking a small slip of cardstock out of his vest. This an ninjutsu qualification examination for the Jonin trials, he read for the third time, to be considered for the rank of Jonin, you must be able to exhibit at least 9C rank techniques, 6B rank techniques, and 3A rank techniques beyond the standard academy curriculum. In addition, you will also be expected to show mastery of at least 2 chakra elements. Finally, at the proctor's discretion, you may be called upon to exhibit the E rank through B rank skills deemed standard and basic by the Hidden Leaf Village. Your time limit is 3 hours. Good luck. Placing the card back, the teacher studied his student, so, before you start in on the advanced techniques, let's do a quick run-through of the basics. Kakashi-sensei, Uzumaki complained, do we really need to do that? Yes. Okay. The blonde youth's shoulders dropped as he sighed loudly, so what do you want me to do? Let's make it a little interesting, Kakashi suggested by way of consolation. To start, create a single shadow clone. Then one of you transform into Iruka, and the other into Anko. Have Iruka attack Anko with a shadow shuriken jutsu, and have Anko use substitution to escape, and counter with a phantom kunai jutsu. After you finish that set, we'll go from there. Naruto nodded as he complied. Even as he split in two, the copies took on the forms of his staff blade teachers. They hopped apart, and Iruka threw what appeared to be a single ninja star at Anko. But 2 blades struck the log that appeared where Anko had been, the second having been hidden in the path of the first. As Anko reappeared 6 feet to the right of her original position, she tossed a single kunai at her opponent. But the weapon struck Iruka in the face, and exploded in a puff of smoke, not having enough substance to even break his skin. After the smoke faded, both fighters sketched a bow, and Iruka disappeared while Anko resumed the shape of Naruto. Very good, the proctor admitted to his student. Next. After nearly 30 minutes of different scenarios, Kakashi Hatake finally seemed satisfied with Naruto's grasp of the basics. All right, I think that will do it, the Jonin said evenly. Finally, Naruto panted slightly, you ready for my real stuff, sensei? Go ahead, the Jonin was nonchalant. Multi-shadow clone jutsu, Naruto exclaimed, splitting into 17 copies. The duplicates surrounded Hatake, splitting into groups of between 2 and 4 Narutos. The original, still alone and in front of Kakashi, raised both hands, palms up and his fingers slightly curled. Rasengan, the Chunin proclaimed, forming one of the spheres in each of his hands. The others took that as a signal. Odama Rasengan, the 2 Naruto clones behind Kakashi created a 6-foot diameter orb between them. Fuyuten, Rasengan. Raiten, Rasengan. The two sets of 3 clones on either side of the original worked in unison, creating the 2 elemental variations of the 4th Hokage's technique. And after a second of additional shaping, the final 2 groups, each comprised of 4 clones, finished the ultimate forms of the spherical technique. Fuyuten, Raisin Shuriken. The clone holding the disc declared loudly, despite the small cuts on his arm. Odama Raiten Rasengan. The 4 clones supporting the 5-foot electrified purple sphere announced. After their teacher had finished glancing around, the clones all vanished and the original Uzumaki cleared his throat for the Jonin's attention. He dropped his left hand, and stared intently at his right. Kakashi raised an eyebrow in curiosity. A single, 2-inch diameter Rasengan formed above Naruto's pointer finger, and 4 more perfect globes followed in succession: middle, ring, pinky, and finally thumb. He darted towards a chunk of stone lying on the ground and stabbed his hand into the rock. Once his fingers drilled past its surface, the core of the chunk of granite exploded, covering Naruto in dust and dirt. 5 points Rasengan, the blonde stated proudly, brushing himself off. So, did you and Hinata plan this in advance? The proctor asked carefully. Naruto frowned in confusion. No, why? She also started off with using shadow clones to perform the Rasengan and its variants, the Jonin explained. Really? Naruto smirked. Great minds, I guess. So how did Hinata do? I can't really tell you that. Kakashi frowned at the Chunin. Come on, tell me something, he pleaded. It's not like it's gonna help me. Like how many food pills did she take? She bought a whole bag, 'cause she was worried her chakra would run out. 3, he admitted after a second, 2 during the test, and 1 afterwards. I was surprised by how much she was able to do before recharging. At this point, I'd say she probably has more chakra than I do. Good for you, Hinata, Naruto said under his breath, then added at his normal volume, but given how hard Grammar Sunid pushed us, it's not much of a surprise. And speaking of that, Naruto took one of the small brown pills from his pack, and swallowed it. I could still go a while longer, but better safe than sorry, considering what happens sometimes when I run out of chakra. Kakashi nodded sagely, having no desire to encounter the QB without Yamato or Hinata around. Well, that first display was 3A rank techniques, and 5S rank techniques, the examiner said evenly, and 2 different elements. A fairly strong start. Can you continue at that pace? Just you watch me, sensei, Naruto roared, re-energized by the food pill. How about another S-rank technique? The Jonin waved his hand in supplication, and Naruto took out a kunai. The younger man quickly and deeply slashed both of his palms, allowing his blood to spill messily over the earth. Once he had enough fluid, he stopped consciously holding back his healing powers, and as the wounds on his hands closed, he began to sign. Ninja art, blood clone jutsu. He incanted, and the red liquid quickly changed into 4 copies of the teen. Wanna see how tough they are, sensei? Naruto asked, with 2 of clone cracking their knuckles. But Kakashi just shook his head. You already had the taijutsu test, the copy ninja said blandly. Come on, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto complained, how can you evaluate my jutsu if you don't see how strong my clones are? Fine, hold still, the elder shinobi capitulated. Without waiting for any acknowledgement, Hitaki darted forward, burying his fist in one blood clone's stomach. The copy folded in pain, and the Jonin sprang to the right, his foot colliding with a second duplicate's face. A large bruise appeared, but it just as quickly faded. And the first clone had recovered by the time the copy ninja had returned to his starting position. That should suffice, Kakashi said evenly. I accept that the blood clone jutsu is an S-rank technique. And I should warn you, I intend to recommend to the Hokage that this jutsu should be sealed. Naruto looked upset, but nodded anyway. He released the jutsu, and the blood fell back to the ground. So, that leaves you with 9C rank or better techniques to show, the examiner prompted. What do you intend to show next? How about cementing my air and lightning mastery, and then showing my earth jutsus? The Chunin suggested. Go ahead. Naruto extended both his hands, and lightning began to crawl over them, eventually focusing in his fingertips. Ranshinsho, he informed his teacher. Kakashi nodded. And my last medium rank lightning technique, Naruto signed as he explained, Raiten, spark darts. 10 tiny points of electricity formed on the fingers of Naruto's right hand, and then shout out in a widespread pattern, before striking the metal fence surrounding the forest. And then for air chakra, I have, his hands flashed, and he intoned, Fuyuten, Cyclone Spikes Jutsu. The 7 cones of wind burrowed into the ground, and Naruto was already preparing his next technique. He displayed bird, dragon, bird, rabbit, and bird. And its big brother, the teen announced, Fuyuten, Tornado Lance Jutsu. A large funnel of wind formed around his hand, and Naruto threw it overhand. The projectile accelerated as it flew, drilling an 18-inch diameter hole in the rock the young man targeted. And I guess it's not elemental, and it's only C rank, but I'm still proud of the young man bit his finger, and spread his blood across his fingers before slamming it into the ground, announcing, Summoning Jutsu. Naruto was carried into the air as the Gamakichi appeared underneath him. Hey, Naruto, the toad swiveled his left eye back to look at the human, what's up? You getting your butt kicked again? Hey, Kichi, the blonde returned the greeting, nah, I'm just showing off my ninjutsu for the Jonin trials. Hey, promotion time, huh? Naruto bobbed up and down as the amphibian nodded his head, well, good luck buddy. Thanks, the human grinned at his ally, dismiss. Okay, that's 3 Cs, A, B, and 1 A, Kakashi noted, that leaves 4 C rank or better to qualify. What else do you want to show? Well, I'm working on an upgraded version of the summoning jutsu, Naruto pondered, but it's not ready yet. Oh right, I haven't shown my earth techniques yet. Shadow Clone Jutsu. The clone was moving away as he appeared, a sour expression on his face. Why do I have to be the victim? The duplicate groused, knowing Naruto's plan. Because if I get hurt, we don't get promoted, the original Uzumaki explained angrily. Yeah, sure, the copy told him, still annoyed. Doton, Stone Claws Jutsu, Naruto said after completing the seals for the technique. 6 earthen hands erupted from the ground, grabbing the facsimile and holding him still. And thanks to Hinata, I finally mastered the upgraded version. Ne, me, Hitsuji, Ne, I, Doton, Stone Jacket Jutsu. The dirt erupted upwards, slamming the duplicate like a giant, granite, bear trap. Despite the initial appearance, the maneuver had no impact and the clone was unharmed. But as the extra material crumbled away, the clone Naruto was encased from his chin to his toes in a thick layer of rock. The original kept his hands together, still sending out chakra, and the duplicate's attempt to break free failed. After holding the jutsu for 30 seconds, Naruto halted his flow of chakra, and the trap began to fall to pieces. And the real Chunin was already signing his next technique. And my first offensive earth chakra technique, Doton, Stone Spears Jutsu. The ground exploded again, but this time the mineral emerged as large, sharp spikes. The points surrounded the partially immobilized copy, but none actually struck him. Once the jutsu was over, the clone bowed with a relieved look, and then vanished. A third element, and 1 more C rank and 2 B rank moves, Kakashi nodded, letting his pride show through despite his intentions, and good control on the attack technique. That leaves you with just 1 more jutsu to go. What will it be? Naruto thought about it, then suddenly his face lit up. Oh man, I can't believe I almost forgot that one. He yelled. He took off his weapon pouch, and opened the zipper. He retrieved 4 shurikens and 4 kunai, and then handed the container to Kakashi. Will you hold on to this, sensei? He asked, then dropped his money pouch on top, and Gamma too. Kakashi nodded, curious and confused. The teen moved a few paces away, and set the weapons on the ground. He then opened another of his pockets, and took out 5 food pills. He split himself in 5 with the shadow clone technique, and then handed each clone 1 of the energy tablets. After downing the restoratives, the 5 Narutos surrounded the ninja tools, and plopped down, cross-legged. Tori, Inu, Saru, Yu, Tori, Tora, Ushi, Ne, Inu, Mi, Tatsu, Uma, Hitsuji, Uma, Saru, the 5 blondes incanted and signed in unison. As they continued to chant, a crimson and ebony sphere formed in the air between them, slightly above their heads. The energy vortex sucked in the weapons under it, and also tugged at the zippers on their jackets. Ignoring the show, the 5 copies kept their focus, and continued the incredibly long jutsu. Unseen under his mask, Kakashi's jaw dropped. Even though he had seen the fruits of the technique before, part of him always doubted that the knucklehead actually knew it, more or less could perform it. He slid up his leaf shield, unleashing his Sharingan eye. The dojutsu failed to pierce the crafting globe, so he watched the versions his student. Despite his skepticism, he had no choice but to admit it. This was the weapon forge jutsu, the infamous, nearly unworkable S-rank crafting technique. Even at this distance, he could feel the orb pulling at the metals he carried. He watched in awe as Naruto continued to craft the jutsu without any indication of uncertainty. After 25 minutes, Naruto ending his chanting, clapping his hands together and shouting, "Hitsuji." The sphere faded away, and the newly crafted weapon dropped to the dirt. Naruto picked it up and handed to his teacher. It was a chakram, 14 inches in diameter, and stylized to look like a six-pointed shuriken. Inside the hollow ring was a bar grip, wrapped with the cotton from the hilts of the kunai Naruto has used. It's not anywhere near as good as Kitsune or Ginmaki, the younger man admitted. I didn't have the extra metals for a stronger alloy, and there isn't exactly the time in the exam to attach all kinds of special jutsu to it. The Jonin examined the weapon, impressed. The blade was sharp, and the balance was perfect. Even without any special enhancements or exotic material, it was an extremely well-crafted tool. Naruto, may I keep this? Kakashi asked, levering the chakram over his palms. Of course, Naruto was noticeably pleased by the request. Well, that is it, the teacher told his student, you have more than met the requirements of the ninjutsu pillar. Well done, Naruto. Wait, Naruto objected, I've got like an hour left, right? I thought of some other techniques I want to show you. It's closer to 45 minutes, the copy ninja counted, but he shrugged dismissively, despite his true feelings, but I guess if you insist, it would go against the spirit of the test for me to stop when you want to continue and you have time left. Great, Naruto grinned broadly, I've just finished this combination of the body flicker and shadow clone jutsus. I'm not sure where it ranks, but I think it's pretty cool. Hello Hinata, the Hokage's assistant said cheerfully as the younger woman entered the training room. Hello, Shizune, the younger woman bowed to her tester. How are you doing? The polite medic asked, did your ninjutsu test go all right? Yes, it went fine, Hinata nodded, though I was quite tired afterwards. Spending all of my chakra and repeatedly recovering most of it with food pills was an unpleasant experience. There is a reason most ninja do not rely strictly on ninjutsu in battle, Shizune agreed. And how was your first experience as a Jonin examiner? Hinata prompted in turn. It went pretty well, the healer answered evasively, though one of my exhibitors tried to give me a hard time. Oh, I'm sorry, Hinata said sadly. Shizune smiled kindly at her. It's not your fault, Shizune said, mildly amused. No, I guess not. Hinata returned the smile, I still do that sometimes. You're a good person Hinata, the proctor told her, I'm happy you and Naruto found each other. Thank you, Shizune-Nisan, the teen mimicked her boyfriend's form of address fondly. Are you ready to start? Shizune asked. Hinata nodded eagerly. Good, the examiner affirmed, well, then, I am supposed to explain the test to you. I'm sure you already know this, but it's required for those certain individuals, who I won't name. She winked at Hinata, and the younger woman giggled. So there are two parts to the Genjutsu exam, Shizune explained. The first part will test your ability to defeat offensive Genjutsu. I will use 3 techniques against you each for D, C and B levels. To qualify you must defeat all 3 D rank illusions, 2 C rank illusions, and at least 1 B rank attack. After that, if we both agree, you can try for some bonus points by going against more or stronger techniques. Of course, I won't be telling you which techniques I am using, and I may mix in some ninjutsu to try to fool you. We wouldn't want it to be too easy, after all. She paused to take a breath, and then continued her exposition. For the second part you must exhibit your own genjutsu, but they may be either offensive or support techniques. Though offensive skills are ranked higher, it is also preferred that you have at least 2 support techniques prepared. I do have one question, Hinata added when Shizune ended her explanation. Are there any special limitations on breaking the genjutsu in the first part? Well, as with all of these tests, attacking your proctor without authorization is not allowed, the elder Kunoiki answered with a sour look, but pretty much anything else is fair game. Good. Hinata nodded. Then the veins in her forehead popped out, and her eyes turned metallic silver as she proclaimed, Suijin Byakugan. I am ready to go, the candidate informed her tester. Good, Shizune said after a worried pause, let's begin. The medic stared into the younger woman's eyes with trepidation. Okay. Shizune raised her hand in submission, I don't know any more attack genjutsu, and I'm running out of chakra. I'm so sorry. Hinata jogged over to help the other woman. She offered the medic a food pill, and helped her over to the only chair in the room. That was amazing, Hinata, the proctor gushed slightly, you took every illusion I threw at you without hesitation, and you saw through every one of my other tricks. How do you do it? Hinata looked embarrassed, my Suijin Byakugan destroys any visual genjutsu used against me. Any visual genjutsu? Shizune was amazed. So far, Hinata admitted, her eyes returning to normal, it is possible there are S-rank techniques that could overcome my Kekkei Genkai. But up till now, any genjutsu that is wholly or mostly based on sight feels like it shatters when it hits me. And even those illusions that are only partially based on sight, I can see right through the visual part. So that's why the superior interrupt technique didn't work, Shizune noted. Yes, I heard the door open and Lady Tsunde's voice, but I could see that there was nothing there, Hinata expounded, also, because I don't have to worry about seeing illusions, I can focus on my other senses when detecting them. That is an impressive technique, the medic complimented the heiress. Then she stretched as she stood, the supplement having restored some of her energy during their conversation. Shall we move on to the second part? The proctor asked, we only have half of our time left, and you need to show me 10 genjutsu techniques. Yes, Hinata suddenly looked nervous, but how can I show my offensive techniques without a target? You use them on me, Shizune said brightly. Oh, but I thought I wasn't supposed to attack you, Naruto's beloved frowned in uncertainty. No, you aren't allowed to physically attack me or use ninjutsu on me during the genjutsu test, Shizune clarified, some people try to do that to get around the deficiencies. But you have to use your illusions on me, otherwise how would I know you're not just faking the hand signs? Right, of course, Hinata looked down, feeling naive again. What do you want to show first? The healer plowed ahead, not wanting the younger woman to get off track. Oh. The teen kunoichi suddenly jerked her head back up, well, I guess I'll start with my C-rank distraction techniques. Sounds good to me, Shizune said reassuringly. But inside she was worried. Inu, Uma, Ni, Hinata said, and then whispered the final incantation under her breath. Shizune looked on expectantly, but she did not see anything change, nor did she hear anything. She turned back at Hinata who was straining for the technique. Hinata, I don't think, Shizune paused in her gentle admonishment, when she caught a whiff of smoke. Hinata's hands suddenly came apart, and she met her proctor's gaze worriedly. Do you smell something? The Hyuga-san asked, her nose flaring slightly. Tsunede's apprentice nodded, and returned her attention to the door. Wisps of smoke curled under the door. Oh, the examiner said, I wonder if Inoiki's ninjutsu test got out of hand. We better go. But Hinata didn't move. As Shizune reached for the door handle, she froze, feeling sheepish. Release. Shizune broke the spell and then added, well done, Hinata. C-rank distraction technique, smoke alarm jutsu, Hinata offered simply. C-rank. A genjutsu that's subtle with both visual and olfactory components would normally be considered a B rank. But Kurenai-sensei said it was only a C-level skill, Hinata protested nervously. Kurenai is an expert, but she also holds genjutsu to a higher standard because of that, Shizune sighed, well, I guess I'll trust her judgment and mark it as C rank. So that leaves you with 4, 3, and 2, by skill level. Please continue. Hinata quickly launched into her next set of hand signs, concluding by saying loudly, Ninja Art, Starburst Jutsu. Dozens of bright lights began flashing before Shizune's eyes, and she quickly broke the technique. She instinctively expected some minor flash burns to her eyes from the dazzling explosions, and found her instantly clear vision disconcerting. She started to compliment the girl, but Hinata was already moving on to her next technique. Fuyuten, tornado howling, Hinata announced. Shizune heard the wind roar past her, and could have sworn she felt it tug at her kimono. The jonin squeezed her hands together, and exclaimed, release. As expected, the noise and the pull vanished. Shizune looked at Hinata with slightly more respect, but also a touch of confusion. I've never heard of an elemental genjutsu before, the proctor admitted. It isn't, Hinata shook her head, and I can't use wind chakra. It is just part of the name, to sell the illusion. Smart, Shizune nodded with a wry grin. So that is 3C rank techniques, right? Hinata prompted. Sure, Shizune said dubiously, did Kurenai teach you all of those? Yes, the younger woman confirmed. Did she teach you all of your genjutsu? The examiner queried evenly. Most of them. But Kakashi-sensei has taught me a few jutsu, and I learned one from Yugao-sensei when we were at the beach. Oh, what technique did Yugao teach you? The echo of whispers jutsu, Hinata replied. The A-rank support technique. Shizune asked her to confirm. Hinata nodded. Will you show it to me? The healer's curiosity leaked into her voice. Hinata bobbed her head again, and rapidly formed the 11 hand seals. Shizune walked to the other side of the room, and hid her mouth behind her arms, while carefully watching Hinata's eyes. Why would you need this jutsu? Hinata said in a monotone, with your Byakugan, you should be able to read lips further than this technique works. That's true, the teen continued in her normal, soft voice, but there are ways to block my Byakugan, and also things my ears might understand that my eyes cannot. Shizune lowered her arms with a sigh of amazement. Still, a skill that lets you hear what people say, even if they don't vocalize, just from the movement of their lips. Maybe when this is all done, you could teach it to me. It would come in really handy for keeping Lady Tsunade on task. I think Yugao-sensei might be a better choice. Hinata looked away. If you can teach Naruto, you can teach anybody, the older sister informed her. That might be true, Hinata agreed with a small grin. Yup, Shizune thought, that's the magic word. So that's 1A and 3C rank genjutsu. The tester resumed her mission, leaving 2C, 3B, and 1A to go. What do you have? Well, there are those, the younger Kunoiki considered, but after the last time, I'm almost afraid to use them. Or there is my other enhancement jutsu, the smell one I worked on with Kurenai-sensei and Kiba. But how can I prove that one works? Oh, I have incense sticks for that, Shizune told her. Do you want mild, ultra mild, or Inuzuka mild? I don't know, what is the difference? Hinata pursed her lips. Mild is for normal strength genjutsu and normal noses, the medic explained. The ultra mild are for people with special noses, like a certain knucklehead, or for really powerful smell enhancing genjutsu abilities. And Inuzuka mild to test the Inuzuka clan, since most of them can smell mild and in some cases even ultra mild without a boost. Probably the mild then, the younger woman said tentatively. Then she activated her scent vacuum genjutsu. Shizune lit the first stick, and had it not been for the label, she would not have known what the smell was supposed to be. Jasmine, Hinata said when Shizune waved the stick in between them, but not too close to the chunin. Good, and next is cinnamon, Hinata inhaled deeply. Right, and last, chocolate. Right again, Shizune extinguished the scented sticks. That's one more C rank. Do you have any B ranks? Yes, but I would rather finish the lower level powers first, Hinata insisted carefully. Okay, what's your last C rank? Well, Hinata blushed. It's an offensive technique, but it doesn't seem particularly combat-worthy. She signed slowly, and then almost whispered, ninja arts, shiatsu fingers. Shizune's eyes widened as she felt multiple non-existent hands start massaging her back. The healer let out a groan of pleasure as the suggestion of comfort caused her muscles to relax for real. She shuddered slightly and tried to explain. This isn't, oh right there, it's not a combat technique. It's a skill for infiltration and seduction. For example, you could use the genjutsu to pretend to give a feudal lord a massage, while you really search his room. You can stop now, Shizune almost panted, but she looked disappointed when the illusion ended. Do you mind if I recover my energy? Hinata asked. Using the Suijin Byakugan for nearly an hour is quite draining. Yes, of course, Shizune was only half paying attention. The younger Kunoiki took out a food pill, and hastily swallowed it. Okay, the proctor regained her composure and grinned at the Jonin candidate. Let's see those last 4 techniques. Ninja art, Huamai jutsu, Hinata complied. Instantly the young woman was gone, replaced by her paramour. I'm gonna pass this test no matter what, Shizune-san, Naruto, proclaimed loudly, giving her a thumbs up. Believe it. Then she returned to being Hinata, who lowered her arm awkwardly. Who am I is a well-established move that covers all 5 senses, Shizune said. Even Kurenai couldn't say that it's not B rank. No, she said it was B level, Hinata agreed. Okay, then 2B and 1 are left. Right, well, I guess I'll have to use those, the Hyuga heiress said uncertainly. Me, Tori, you. Around Shizune, the floor seemed to melt. The sticky lump of former stone clutched at the Hokage's aid, pulling her down. She put her hands together, and defeated the illusion. Shizune was surprised to find she was on her knees. And then I have tears of insanity. As the Chunin completed the jutsu, the Jonin began to hear sobbing. Why did you let me die, Shizune? I thought you were a healer. Too weak. The medic recognized all the voices taunting her, the cries of all the people she had failed to save. She wanted to grab her ears and block them out, even knowing it used just a fantasy. She managed to put her hands back together, and choked out, release. I'm sorry, Shizune, Hinata said sadly. No, that's part of the test. Shizune took a deep breath. I went through worse yesterday. Though I wouldn't object to another round of your shiatsu fingers after I see your last 2 techniques. Without announcing her intent, Hinata launched into her last B rank skill. After crafting the jutsu, the pale beauty began to change. She sprouted red and black leathery wings, even as he began to grow in size. Her face distended, with large tusks thrusting upwards out of her lower jaw. Her outer layer of clothing burned away as her skin became mottled and scorched. At the end of the transformation, her arms split below the elbow, giving her 4 sets of fists and forearms. Barely recognizable in her demonic form, Hinata exhaled hard, sending an odious cloud of sulfur at her examiner. Release, Shizune said, breaking the hold of the younger woman. Hinata immediately reverted to normal. That was an interesting image, Shizune shuddered. What did it look like? Hinata wondered, then explained, the Waking Terror Genjutsu looks different for each person viewing it. You turned into a 4-armed, winged Oni, the healer said. It was pretty frightening. My other A-rank technique is supposed to be used against a group, so it might not appear as impressive, Hinata said mournfully. That's alright, the proctor said. Hinata showed dragon, bird, ram, monkey, bird, and boar, before stating, masking storm jutsu. Clouds formed above Shizune's head, and began to dump a cold rain on her. The rain was already obscuring her vision, when the bolt of lightning turned everything white. The liquid hitting her skin started to chill her, and the patter of rain and whistle of the wind blocked her ears. The ozone and clean smell of the rain filled her nose. She shivered reflexively, and decided she had seen, heard, smelled, and felt enough. She tried to release the genjutsu, but Hinata's technique resisted. The Jonin pushed a little harder, and the illusion finally broke away. Do you have anything more? Shizune asked. No, she shook her head regretfully. Kakashi-sensei had to teach me the absorbing earth and masking storm powers so I would have enough techniques to cover the test. Everything else I know is D rank. Well, then, I guess we are done here. Hinata, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Shizune-san. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.